I am sitting next to the incredibly good-looking cast of the upcoming Transformers spin-off, Bumblebee.
Stop.
Which is being released this December. How are you guys? Thanks so much for being here.
Very good. Thank you for the invite.
This movie is so highly anticipated. I am personally so excited. When I watched the trailer, I literally got chills when I heard the late Bernie Mac's voice, and it just feels like such a coming-of-age movie, and I really got Iron Giant vibes. Is that the tone of this movie? Is this movie going to be like the Iron Giant?
That is an aspect of it, yes. I mean, it is sort of modeled after those classic Amblin, Spielbergian coming-of-age tales of the 80s. Like, things like E.T., Iron Giant is in that similar kind of vein. That experience that we go through as we're transitioning from one phase in our life to the next. And it felt like the perfect kind of setting and story to set this origin story for Bumblebee in that kind of framework. And Hailee's character, Charlie, and Bumblebee, they meet each other. They're both these kind of broken souls. And over the course of this adventure, they heal each other. It's a really lovely and action-packed story. Oh,
we're so excited for it. Since it's in the 80s, will we see Bumblebee in a pair of parachute pants or a members-only jacket?
Maybe. You're going to have to see the movie, but I'm not going to say no, I'm not going to say yes.
Well, the 80s were a time where the Transformers were basically, I wouldn't know, but I've heard, the best new friend that any human could have. So I'm curious to know, George, since we weren't around in the 80s, what is everyone's first connection to the Transformers?
Mine would be when they came out, and literally because you could get 2 toys for the price of 1 toy.
Right.
So with 4 brothers and a very busy household and everyone trying to get what they could, with Transformers you could literally have 2 toys for 1 toy. So I can vividly remember wanting Transformers for that reason.
Right.
Yeah, for me it was Transformers Armada, which was, I think, the second version of the TV show. That one didn't have Bumblebee, but it had Hot Shot.
Right.
So when the movies came out, I was really super confused. But yeah, that was a fun time. I remember that and I think the McDonald's toys had Transformers for a bit. So that was my first time.
Yeah, I'd always pick the boys' Happy Meal because that one always had.
They got the good toys.
What about you, Travis?
It's interesting because the Transformers universe has now been around for about 35 years, and so it's funny because you have these different iterations. People who came of age with these toys, with these characters and these stories at different points. For some people, it's Michael's films, their first exposure to Transformers. For me and for John, it was the first time Transformers were launched in America. And yeah, I was a kid when those toys came onto the market, the animated series, and the comic books came out, and I absolutely loved it. I'd never seen anything like it. And for us, setting this film in that era, it allowed us to go back to that kind of feel, that kind of aesthetic, and that kind of a vibe that you get from that initial launch of the film, why they were so wondrous and so special.
Right. My parents always tried me. They always had the generic versions that start with
GoBots.
a G. We won't name them. Oh, you
GoBots.
just did.
It's fine because Hasbro owns them now. We can say
Oh, we can?
Yes.
Yeah, I made a few GoBots myself.
I would get so mad at my mom. I'd be like, Mom, you're ruining my life. We have the generic of everything. I still don't know what Fruit Loops taste like. Seriously. It was the worst.
They have grocery stores where you can actually buy a box of Fruit Loops if you're so inclined.
I know.
Yeah.
I should do that after
Don't
this.
do it. Don't do it.
I know, right? I feel like
Stick
if you've
with
gone
fruit-flavored
this long.
circles.
Let's talk about Bumblebee. That is the name of this movie. This is his origin story. Why do you think Bumblebee deserved the spin-off over any other Transformer?
From my perspective, it's
Well, I'm curious to know from you too, John. Because Bumblebee is a fan favorite.
Well,
why do we love Bumblebee so much?
In doing these interviews, I think Travis explains it extremely well, and I can honestly say that I feel the same way. And he's the captain of the ship, so I feel like he has to answer. So I will say I agree with him before he answers because I've heard his answer before, but he's 100% right.
Well, from my perspective, he's the most interesting Transformer in the sense that he's the one Transformer who has the deepest affinity for humanity, who has the greatest connection with people.
Right.
And I thought that was really interesting. From the first time we see him in the animated series, he immediately attaches to this human character. And it got me to think, why is that? What can we explore? What is it about him and who he is, who he was before we got to know him, and who he is, after this experience that turns him into this kind of person? What is it about him? I thought that was a fascinating thing to lean into. And this film it's an origin story. It explains who he was before we got to know him, and over the course of this journey, he becomes the Bumblebee that we know and love.
Since this is his origin story, are we going to get to hear his voice in the movie?
Maybe.
Did you just ask a question? Because I didn't hear anything. So if you didn't ask a question, I can't answer it, so I never heard it.
Well, what sound makes you guys think of the Transformers? Because for me, it's the voice of Optimus Prime.
That's a good one.
Are we going to see Optimus in this movie?
I can confirm that Optimus does make something of an appearance, a cameo of sorts in the film. So yes, he
cameo.
is. Yes. We have a lot of wonderful little Easter eggs that are kind of laid out throughout the film. You don't need to know anything about the Transformers to enjoy it, but there are a lot of fun things for fans like me and for fans of the series. There are a lot of fun aspects of the whole franchise that we weave into the narrative.
Right. George, I'm curious to know more about your character. Does your character have a name, and can we know more about
He
him?
does, actually. That's a very good question. His name is Memo. I'm new to the neighborhood in this new origin story. I'm actually new to Hailee's character, Charlie's neighborhood, and I think that she's a great person. I'm vying for her attention, and my search to get her attention kind of leads me into this big Bumblebee adventure, and I kind of get dragged along, and things ensue.
John, I want to know more about your character too, because we know there are 3 Decepticons. So how does Agent Burns kind of play into all of this? They're the main villain.
I can't tell you anything this time, which is horrible. So it makes this like weird and awkward because you look at me like, are you really gonna not tell me anything? I've been sworn to secrecy. Like, there's a group of people that travel around with briefcases handcuffed to their arm, and it's just agreements that I've signed not to say anything until it's time to say something. We have an exposition of footage later on this afternoon. So if this were later on in the space-time continuum, then we could talk maybe a bit more. But until then,
you're such a mystery, just like your Instagram account. Travis, this is obviously first live action without Michael Bay. First live action without Michael Bay. So I need to know who was more of a diva on set, John Cena or Bumblebee?
Well, considering the fact that Bumblebee was never on set, he actually is a CG animated character.
Magic.
I guess it would have to be John.
no, I will take that claim. I was definitely more of a diva on set. Yes.
Was it fun for you to play a villain, since you've never really played a villain, not even in WWE?
I can't confirm nor deny that I am playing neither a villain nor a hero. I don't even know if I have a part in this picture. I just wandered into this room and
You
you told
just
me to sit
wandered
down.
in. All right, well, thank you guys for tuning in. You'll have to wait to see the movie to find out all the answers to these questions. But seriously, thank you guys so much. We are so excited for this movie, Bumblebee, first spin-off of Transformer, coming out this December. Thanks, guys. I'm sitting next to the beautiful Hailee Steinfeld,
Hello,
who is the first female lead in the first Transformers spin-off, Bumblebee, set to release this December.
Yes.
Hailee, how does that feel to be the first female lead of a Transformers movie?
Well, when I hear it out loud like that, it's pretty insane. I feel very fortunate to have been given the opportunity to play this role of this character, Charlie Watson, in Bumblebee. She really, she's really a special character. She's got a lot to say and unique ways of saying it, so I'm excited for people to meet her.
Can you tell us more about Charlie, aside from is she more of like a tomboy?
Yeah, she's
a
definitely more of a tomboy. She really is your typical sort of misunderstood teenager, and there's this freedom that she absolutely craves, and basically finds her way into that, and that's through a car. And then obviously that car turns into something other than a car, and there's this budding friendship and journey within all of that. So,
she plays a mechanic, so how are you with cars in real life? How are your driving skills?
well, I will say my brother is a mechanic and a race car driver. So I was like, how do I put this lightly? But no, that's what he does. So he was on set with me when I made this movie, and I constantly was calling him and to set to help me with lines and make sure that he could explain. And there was at one point he was like printing out definitions and graphs and outlines of cars and everything to explain to me what everything was. So he was my little cheat sheet on this movie. So
sounds like the best brother ever.
Yeah.
Do you have a love interest in this film?
That part I'm not gonna tell you. There is tons of emotion though, and love, and heartfelt everything in this movie. There are relationships, there are conflicts and inner obstacles and outer obstacles with Charlie and her friends and her family and people that she likes and stuff like that. But that part you're gonna have to wait and see.
I'm so excited because it seems like there's way more emotion in this movie than what we're used to. How is this movie stylistically different from the Transformer movies we've seen in the past?
Well, you said it perfectly just then. It has a lot of emotion. It's you know, it's an origin story, and it's very character driven and storyline driven, and yeah, I mean, it all stems around this girl and who she is and her family and her way of finding who she is in life.
Right. When we think Transformers movies, we think huge, epic, scale, action scenes. Are we going to get that in this movie?
Absolutely, absolutely. Transformers fans will definitely get their taste of that, of what the Transformers films are known for. So there is definitely a bit of action. I was able to partake in some of it, which was exciting. And the whole shoot was really, I mean, every day you kind of never really knew what was going to happen. And filming something like this where, I mean, you want to say 90% of the film is in special effects. It's like, I can't wait to see the final product of this, because it'll be as if, you know, I don't know the story necessarily in a way, because it's kind of like, I can't wait to see what they put in around me. I hope what I imagined was somewhat correct.
Right. Well, this movie obviously takes place in the 80s, and we weren't around then. So how were you able to connect to the era?
Well, first of all, our director, Travis Knight, he was himself a child of the 80s, so he was able to break down the specifics for us, but also just really being able to immerse myself in that era. I find it pretty fascinating myself in terms of the style and the music, so I had a great time, you know, going back to that. But my character, Charlie, it was one of my favorite parts in developing her was, you know, with the hair and the makeup and the wardrobe. Our vision boards basically consisted of Debbie Harry, Madonna, and I mean, just iconic women of the 80s. And I loved being able to like go in the trailer every day and see them and have that be the sort of inspiration stylistically for this character.
You're obviously an incredible singer. Do you have any music in the movie?
Ooh, my lips are sealed on that. The music obviously plays a huge role in this movie, so I'm hoping, you know, the movie's in post-production right now, so everything is kind of in its final stages of coming together. So if there's an opportunity to be involved in that sense, then absolutely, I'd love to.
So my favorite part of the trailer was at the very end when Charlie basically rickrolls Bumblebee.
Okay.
Do you know what rickrolling is?
I don't, but I was going to act like I did, but I'm glad you mentioned it, because I really have no idea.
It's when you click on a link on the internet and you think it's going to be one thing, but really it's that song by Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up.
Right.
So you basically rickrolled Bumblebee.
Hey, I'm going to use that now. I like that.
Are there any Transformers that you can tease that may be in this movie that we might see?
Ooh, well, there are.
We learned that Optimus makes a little cameo in the movie.
Sure, there are a couple little cameos here and there that I think people will be really excited about. And yes, Optimus is in there. So yeah, I mean, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
All right. Well, we are so excited. Hailee, thank you so much for stopping by. I cannot wait to watch this movie. You look amazing. Thank you guys for tuning in. Bumblebee is set to release this December 2018.